Okay, so what we're doing today is we're going to joint timbers to create the wall between the boot and the living space. So what we're doing is we're taking pallet wood. I've already ripped one edge to get it started to give me one perfectly straight edge. What we're doing now is we've reset the rip fence to a millimetre thinner than the thinness of the boards, so this will give us a uniform board at the end of it. What we now do is place this sawn edge against the rip fence, and what we end up with is two parallel surfaces, which should give us a very nice seam joint between the boards. It will give us a uniform width on all the boards as well, and then there are still nails in from their previous life. These were just cut off, so but I'm not too worried about those. I think it'll give it a nice feature appeal. And then what we'll do is we'll obviously square them up nicely, so that we've got perfect right angles ready for the floor. We'll cut them to length. We will have offcuts because maybe about, I don't know, maybe a foot, 14 inches in height difference across the boards. What that will give us is spares to pin in at one corner, so we should have enough boards hopefully. I've got 12 in total, and these will come up at uniform 85mm thick, wide, sorry. Yeah, so apologies for the noise. I will mute it for the video, sake of the video. So yeah, so we've got a stop just to keep the wood pressed against the rip fence. Long rip fence. The blade is set just taller than the height of the material to keep it safe. You don't want it up too high, and it's just feed it through slowly, steadily, right? And then what we'll end up with is, as I say, a uniform thickness and parallel sides. So this is jointing on a table saw. It's very noisy, that. So if I set that to 85, there you go, 85 wide. So what you end up with is a lovely jointed surface ready for gluing up. Push it through steady and slow, as I said, and you end up with a nice joint that a block plane wouldn't go amiss. Nice, perfectly straight sides to each other, and that the cover has been removed just for photographic purposes. Always keep the saw blade covers on when you're doing this operation. for safety. That's one thing I do advocate, is using, so I've only removed them just so that you can see what I'm doing, nothing else. So if you weren't here, they'd be on. So eat, seat, repeat. So I'll do another board and then I'll show you the jointed result. We're on the other bench. Okay, right, coming for a walk. So, right, so if I position you here, you should be able to see what I'm on about. So, if I move those two out of the way, see, I'd like you to note safety glasses there for that one. Right, so this one, these are two yet to be milled surfaces. So, and as you can see, if I just right, so you can see that even put, sorry, let's just move that out of the way. Right, even put together, there is quite a gap from the uneven surface. Okay, so milled sides, because they're not done yet, these are straight but they're not parallel to the surfaces yet, so hence why you end up with that gap. So when you put the two surfaces together, there you go, nice clean lines all the way. The boards are slightly bowed, so but they'll come into line with biscuit joints if I can be bothered to do biscuits on those, being that the boards aren't wonderfully thick. Biscuits will go in them, but so we may yet do biscuits just to align the surfaces as we glue, but that's what you end up with as a jointed surface. So as you can see, so if I go that way round, you can see how nice that now looks as a surface to surface. So we'll continue to mill the rest of them. That gives me 10, so that gives me 850 mil of boards cut to length to start the wonder wall. I've got to get some more of it. I've got another 2 in the shed. Pete's got 1 I can rob back, 1 or 2. That should give me hopefully enough to cover the space, and then the offcuts will cover where the fridge is sitting. So you just there so you can carry on watching, and we'll get the rest of these all milled up. I'm going to find the glasses. The board that I've got set up here, the reason it's set on the angle is because you only want the corner touching, so that way you can't get clogged up with all the sawdust and then pushing your piece out the way. So this is purely a board to keep your work tight against the fence, nothing else. As a feeding board. Ideally you'd have a taller fence with another one of these set as a feather board, so it's basically feathers of wood, and that would keep your board pressed tight down to the tabletop. So that's the idea behind that, is just to keep it tight to the fence. So that's those 10 milled. I need to find the others, reset, and come back and get the others milled. So we'll reset the guide, at 87, and then we'll move it back at 85 just to joint those two edges. So I'll just go and find the other timbers and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, right, we're back. Found them. I've actually got 3, which is good. Right, when setting up the table saw, make sure it's unplugged for safety. Pick a tooth on the saw blade. I'm going to go for this particular saw, this tooth. You set your measure. Now I've got that at 87. Keep hold of that tooth as you bring it all the way around to the other side. Measure that, that should still be at 87, which it is, and that will ensure that your blade is cutting the same here as it is here. That's the important part. Right, now we're set up. Back in with the float. Back on with the glasses, because this has a lot of resin in. Now this one, as you can see, it's still got the nail in fully, so I've got to try and get that out at some point, but that's not in my workspace at the minute, so that's fine. And then we'll come back and do that afterwards. So what you end up with then is not too much timber. Now the clamps that I've got here don't do enough, so we're just going to put these over there. Two. Yeah, and show you. Okay, right. So what we end up with there is edge bound and glued. Some are bowed, but I think you'll agree that as a panel quite tidy. Right, so we will be belt sanding the face, so not too worried about the boot side, but we will be gluing up the sanding down the front. So we're going to make up panels of so that's jointing on a table saw. Like I said, set up your fence, rip one edge and do the whole of them, to all the boards that you've got to on one edge, reset your fence, turn it round and rip the opposing face, and you end up with two completely parallel sides. As you can see, you end up with a nice jointed edge with minimal effort on the clamps to put them together. You can do it on a proper jointer, but if you don't have one, this is your best solution. So you need a good sharp table saw blade. These do have a lot of resin in, so I am now going to have to take that blade out and give it a good clean to get the resin off. And that's what you end up with. So what we'll do is we'll start gluing them up. Okay, right, old piece of worktop that we're not going to be using because it's in white, obviously. what we're doing with this is this will give us purchase to press down to get the boards as in line as we can possibly do. So again, just make sure of your orientation for your panels. Right, that one's upside down. Lovely. Right. Okay. And it's simple. Edge glue. So, not a massive amount. But a good bead, nonetheless. And then yes, euro spread. And to make your life easier, line up one of the edges. So just to make cutting the panels that much easier. And then set your clamps. And you want to just nip them up. Don't go mad on the pressure. You just want to bring them together with as little force as possible, but enough to make sure that the joint is together. Now, so that's the first panel. Now, we are going to scrape off the excess glue before we belt sand, so we are belt sanding, but that's the first panel. So, ready and glued. So we'll just lay that there. I can just now do its thing. So, next three boards. We'll get the orientations on these. So they're right. could be interesting. Okay, we've got the big boys, so I might get some steels out and we'll clamp using steels, using the 2 big clamps. And we should be able to then clamp 4 in one go then. But for now, jointing, gluing up panels. As I said, we'll use the long clamps, and we'll be gluing panel to panel. As I said, each board is now 85mm wide, so 8, 16, 24 plus 15 gives you 255 on a panel. 3 panels of that, with obviously the bigger one to come, should give us a decent run at getting the wonder wall done. So all we need to do now is the edge that we've dressed as such, where we've got the boards in line. Once these are all dried, we'll trim them on the compound saw to get a square edge. Since we've got nicely sawn edges, we've got a perfect square. So we'll get them all squared up, and then measure to length and then cut. And what we'll do is we'll cut just a shade long to make sure, and then we'll put them into Doris in situ, and then we'll set the level against the bed, and then we'll string a chalk line, snap it, and then we'll mill them based on the chalk line, so that they all get exactly the same height and same structure. And then what we can do then is glue the whole panel. So I'm now going to go and have a cuppa while these all dry up, and then we'll get the other 4 glued when these are all dry, and see if I can find some very long sash clamps that we can clamp up these. Ready for that. So join me again later once this is all dry, and we'll be gluing panel on panel. Yeah.